let's take a look at the wings. Now, this is the starboard wing, or if you like the right hand wing, and it should look something very similar to this. Now what you've got to appreciate is that you'll have this part here, and this is for the boom to slot into. So as an example, there's your 3mm square going into there. It should go in, at least that's the theory, like that. Now I'll go into this a bit more when I come to do the port wing. I just wanted to get this one finished because I had to figure it out myself anyway, so it just makes things twice as easy. You'll find that you have an infill here. This is 1.5mm, and it goes all the way through to the second R2 rib. That's the one after the one that has the struts in it. Now when you put the rib in for the struts, there is a gauge on the plan, looks like that, and it shows a slot here. So the idea is you slot that over the rib, and it should be the correct place to angle this rib here. So I'm talking about the first R2 rib on the plan from the middle. So that should be rib number, let's have a look, if that's, yeah, it should be rib number 1. No, that can't be right. Rib number 5. So this is rib number 5. So if your centre rib is 0, and then +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, it's 5. And then 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, that has to be at a slight angle like that, because when the wing is on its dihedral, that will now be in a level position, and the strut should, in theory, stand straight up like that. That's the theory anyway. So that will now slot into there. Look at the right way around. Yeah. There you go. Slots into there like that. So when the wing's in that position, the strut should be straight up. I think the lift is 30mm, which is 3 centimeters, which is 1¼ inches. So yeah, that's about right. So it ain't too bad. You can cope with that, because this is on a bit of a slant anyway. There you go. So you should stand straight up like that. Okay. I'll go more into this part. This is R5 and R4. Now you're going to get confused looking at this. I will come back to it, don't worry. Now, to accommodate ailerons, I have put a servo here. It's only loose at the moment, isn't it? It's not glued in or anything like that. Okay, just here. And I've slotted a hole all the way through, big enough to take the plug. So if I need to put an extension on there, I can just plug one in, and it isn't going to be an effort. So that hole goes all the way down to there, and I've stopped just at the outer rib, just before the outer rib. And what I will do is I'll put a piece of balsa along here, and then cut that aileron out. But I'll come to that. That's not your main concern right now. Your main concern is to get that rib built. This is your laminated edge here. This was a lot easier than I expected it to be, and I think you'll be okay with that. So I'll move on to the port wing, and I'll show you about the ribs. Okay, now I've cut these out individually, but I put a pin through 2 places and sandwiched them, and then sanded them so they're all the same shape. They can't be wrong, they're the same shape. So that's R2, that's the longer ones. The R1s are the shorter ones, exactly the same. I've marked out where they've got to be cut out for the main rib there, and again sandwiched them down and sanded them so they're all exactly the same. They'll all be identical. Now the only time the R1s become different is when you come to the middle of the wing, because you have braces in here with the dihedral on, which will go in. So we'll slot that in like that, and there's one either side of the main rib. So what you've got to do, mind you, it is a bit of a tight fit, I have to admit. You have to make this part wider. Now I would have to say, if I've got my measuring tool with me, that width there is, let's have a look, looks like 6mm for that gap there. Okay, that's to accommodate these two dihedral struts, and you don't need to do all of them, you just need to do 3 of them on each wing. So that's the middle one and the other 2, so I think that's 3 of them altogether, and then the rest are just a normal size for the wing strutters to go all the way along the main rib, I should say. Okay, and this is 9mm high and 3mm wide. I've just used up what's the these are layered, these are spruce, a 3mm spruce. I used 3 of them and just layered them, and the only places where they're glued is where the ribs meet. Otherwise it adds that little bit of flex to it and a lot of strength, I might add. So we should be okay using the ailerons, etc. You've got some infills here, just be aware of that, and you let in the rear of the rib into the trailing edge and you just butt the front up. If you want to put some little triangles in to strengthen it, you can. There's nothing stopping you. I might even do it myself yet. Anyway, coming back to the dihedral jig, that slot there is wrong. You've got to come over, so the only way to do it is just hold it up, and then wherever the top of the rib meets, mark that and then cut that in. You need to cut it in, let's have a look, 18mm deep, and from the flat edge you've got to come into, let's have a look, 30mm dead. So 30mm from that edge this way and 18mm deep into there, and then that will sit quite nicely on that rib and then give you that correct angle. And I made 2 of them, so I've got the front and the back correct at the same time. So don't forget to make those strut jigs, because you'll come unstuck. That has to be at an angle. Same with this one, this strut at the back here, that needs to be at the same angle. So obviously you just put those over there, and they do fit quite nicely. And there you go. This strut's at an angle, this strut's at an angle. Okay, and like I said, I'll come back to this bit later. We'll have a look at the ailerons later. But first thing we've got to do is, after this, is make the lower port wing, and we're going to start doing that right now. I'm not going to do an in-depth, because until I come to this part, I'm not going to do an in-depth, because, you know, you should be able to see how the wing goes together by now. So I'll put that to one side, and what we're going to start with is the wing. You know, I keep forgetting the words in English. The integral brace you know, the strut thing, the bit in the middle. I can't speak English anymore. So I'm going to get 3 of these and put these on top of each other. I'm then going to cut these to 3mm for the wing strut, and I'm going to cut the little, oh, I don't need to cut these at the back, do I? No. So I'll just cut these in the middle here, and they should go straight over the top. Then I'll add on the leading edge, the trailing edge, and sand them to shape, and then pin them on, and then start gluing these in until I get to this row of R1s. Now here's the thing, when you get the plan, the port wing on the drawing ends about here, somewhere here. So what you're going to have to do is photocopy the right hand wing or the starboard wing and do a mirror image and turn it upside down. So you'll probably see that the writing on this one, if you can see that at all, that's upside down. Okay, so just be aware of that, and that's why I've numbered the center one 0, -1, -2, -3 until you get to -13, and then you know where you are. You know that's the center there, and you know that's +1, +2, +3, +4, +5. Got that? Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll see you in the next bit. I'm going to try and do this, if I can, step by step, without taking too long about it, hopefully. So what have we got? Now here's your spruce, 3mm by 3mm, and you're going to need 3 of those. Okay, and you lay them down on the plan, and when you find out where 0 is, which is here, you mark all 3 of them and you cut them to length. Okay, you then get your leading edge. Now you can get it shaped like this. This is flat at the bottom and rounded at the top. Normally I'll just use a square and sand it down to shape, but I decided, well, being as I had to order some wood anyway, that I would get some in. You just got to check your leading edge and just make sure, you know, if you've got any defects like you have here, just quickly sand that off, and then that's ready for going down on the board. And you make sure that you go up to 0. I'm doing mine in 2 parts, Cliff's doing his in 1 piece. You're up to 0, just slightly over, just cut it slightly longer than shorter, because if there's something wrong, you've got enough left to shape it off. Then you have this part here. Now this part here is 5 by 5 balsa, which is a square like that, and you make sure that you got enough there, and then mark it for cutting. Trailing edge, it's very difficult to get the trailing edge, which is 15mm by 3. So what you can do, you can get a sheet of 3mm balsa. If I've got some at hand, yeah, here we go. If you're stuck, just get a sheet of 3mm balsa, measure 15mm here and here, put some masking tape all the way down in a straight line, then just sand it into a trailing edge, and then just run the knife down it, and there's your trailing edge. That's if you get stuck. Okay, so there's your trailing edge that goes on there, ready for cutting, which would be rib number 4. Cut it up to number 4, then it's longer than what you need it, so you can then shorten it to however you need it. And then you're going to need R4 and R5 once you've finished your ribs. Okay, now with R4 and R5, right, how do I explain R4 and R5? You will have R5, which will be this one. Now I'll have to go and get the plan to rightly explain this, and grab an R4. So what I'll do is, there's R4, if you look on the plan, it'll plainly show you R4. R5 is shown inside of R4 and will look like that. Okay, I can't remember the measurement, but it's roughly that edge there is inside the drawing. So when you find, I'll go and get the plan in just a minute, and you'll see that R5 is inside R4. In fact, I'll go and get the plan now. I'll just stop this now and then come straight back. Right, let's see if I can make sense out of this for you, because this will confuse you. I had to think about this myself. Now, if you see there, it says R4 lower, and then it shows the boom. Okay, and if you put R4 in there, you can see that, you know, you've got to cut it out. Then these two lines like that, so there's two lines, that's where your boom goes. So what you have to do is get yourself some 3mm by 3mm balsa, okay, and put your balsa like that, one at the top and one at the bottom, to allow that boom to slot in. So in other words, it's going to look like that. Does that make sense? R4 is going to look like that. So you shave a bit off here, cut it here, shave it off here, so that if I take the boom bit out, you'll end up with that, basically. Yeah? Does that make sense? Then the boom slots in like that, and that's sandwiched in. Okay, and that goes all the way to the end now. But when I come to that, I'll show you in more detail. With R5 then goes on top of that. So you've got those there, and R5 goes on top. So then you get a sandwich that looks a bit like that. Yeah. Now to get R5, actually I've got it on the fold there, but no mind. There you go. Let's see. Now you see R5. Yeah. So there's R4. Yeah. R5 is that. So you see how that leading edge there comes up to that part there, and you've got a bit of a gap, and then you'll see those little arrows. R5, little arrow, little arrow, little arrow. So that's the shape of R5 inside of R4. Yeah, so I've actually drawn it in on there. R4. R5. Yeah, sit down and have a look at that, and it will come to you to make sense. But when I come to do this, I'll show you a bit more close up, and then you go, ah, yeah. Okay, so that's how you do that. So what I'm going to do now off camera, I'm going to cut these to length, pin them down and make a start. Right, that's the port wing put together, glued up. I think I might need to put some diamond shapes just to strengthen this with the leading edge on the ribs. But essentially that's what you end up with. And note that these are slightly angled here and slightly angled here. I'm not putting these ribs in just yet because I want to do the ailerons, and then when I come to do this later, I can fit the fuzz on it and make sure the ribs fit and everything else. So I'm just leaving that alone for a minute. But essentially this is what your wing should look like. This is the bit you've really got to work on. The rest of it is pretty simple. I've filled in this gap here, which is 3mm. Put a 1.5 mil piece of balsa in there and just rubbed it down a little bit, because you have a strut which will go there, and that strut will just butt onto there. It just sits there. The front one will be like that, okay, but the rear one sits on top of there. Okay, I'm going to make that plain to you. And of course you got this one near the end of the wing, etc. Okay, and all you got to do is just shape down these joints here, and again I might put some diamonds in to reinforce all that. I think it's a little bit, you know, a little bit flimsy, and that's what this piece looks like from underneath. So it gives you a good idea, or a better idea. And to even reinforce all of that, I'll take my 3mm carbon fibre rod, and we'll put that in. There you go, slips in quite nicely. And that's what you should end up with regarding that. Okay, so I will come back when I've decided how I'm going to do this aileron. My first thoughts, I'll just take this carbon rod out, is to take this, so I think it's 10mm, so I'll double check it. Yeah, take this 10mm or something bigger, and then offer that up to there, all the way along until about, I think it ends about here, and then cut that in a nice straight line, including this part here, and then butt this up to the back of the rib, and then cut another piece and butt that up to this part of the aileron, and then I've got to start then. And once that's done on the port wing and the starboard wing, then I'll think about joining it together and making it all good. There you go. So here we are. Now you'll notice I've put a piece of 1.5mm balsa wood in here. This is to help me mount the servo, which will go in here, and is thin enough to miss the top of the ribs there. Trailed the cable through. I may need to put, well, I will need to put an extension on it, and I'll come to that when I need to. And the main part, the aileron. How about that? Fair amount of movement there. The only downside is that I tried to finish everything off with a very light sanding from my 1500, and I suddenly realised I'd sharpened my tip of my pencil with it and it's gone black. Never mind, these things come to try us. It's going to get covered anyway. So what I have used is this. Let's double check it again, the size of that. Don't want to tell you wrong. It's yeah, it's 13mm wide by 3mm, so it's 3mm by 13, possibly 14, it depends how good your ruler is. And just put that this side of the ribs, another one this side of the ribs. It's not difficult to do. They only use the nylon as a hinge, and there you go, that's all there is to it. So there you go, you've got full movement there, certainly enough. What I did do was, I'll just take this out so I can show you. Okay, I left this flat left this flat and rounded this end, and it hasn't got to be, you know, very round. It's got to be round because two flat surfaces, it isn't going to work. So there you go, and I should now crack on, finish off the other wing, mount the servo, get an extension in, do the top wing, and then I'll look at mounting the fuzz in the middle. Still got some work to do on the fuzz. Most of the work's done, but I've got to put the controls in and everything else, and the servos and things. So yeah, so there we are. That is the wings done. Now then, my fellow model makers, this is probably the most important part of the build in relation to making the wing have the correct angle of incidence with the fuselage, or as I like to call it, the fuzz. Now pay attention to this, because this is really important. If you are making your center section, which I will show you in just a moment, you have to get your R1 rib cut out precisely. What you'll need to do is, because this is 1.5mm thick, and I think it's, in America it's 1/8 or something like that. Anyway, you work it out. Because this now needs to be thick enough to go over the top of the cabanes, and the cabanes are 3mm, actually they're 3.1mm wide. So 2 times 1.5 is 3mm. Okay, then you sandwich them. What have I put it? I'm unprepared. Oh my word, what have I done with it? You then get a 0.4 ply, 2 of them, which I have put down, and I don't have to hand. However, oh, here we are. Sorry about that, it's just the ply looks a bit like cardboard. Hang on, you can't pick them up. Pick them up, okay. There we go. Right, this ply looks like cardboard, so that's why I couldn't see it. So what you have in effect is doubling up of the rib, 2 times 1.5, yeah. Then you make 2 ply to sandwich that in, like that. So it's going to look, if I can get it level, something like that. Okay, now that's going to be thick enough to go over the top of the cabanes. But even more important than that, because this gives it strength, okay, on the outer ply, only cut where the main rib is, don't cut anything else apart from where you hit the trailing edge. You have to get the angle of incidence correct. Now I wish there was some manner for me to draw that and leave it as a PDF file for you to see, but I can't. I don't have that capability here. But what you got to do is get your fuzz, okay, lay it over the plan, this plan here, okay, line it up with the top edge so that the cabanes are sitting in the correct place, like that, as carefully as you can, okay. Then you grab your rib. This is R1. It's R1 upper, by the way, just in case. It's easy mistake to make. And you can see here where the bottom of the rib should lie, okay, and it says here 1.5 degrees incidence. So if you lay that rib on, and then, sorry, what I should have said was, the leading edge is 5mm from the front to the very back. So you mark where your leading edge is. You then lay that rib on top, okay, and then mark it out. Okay, now just double check where my fuzz is, because you will knock it. Keep checking and checking and checking and make sure everything is where it should be. So that's cabane, the fuzz is in the right place to the plan, and now the bottom of the rib is where it should be. So I can see that the rear cabane is correct. I've had to cut it a little bit wider than what it shows, but it's okay. And I've discovered that the front cabane is too high. So if I lay that rib on top and then mark the cabane where it should go and take that rib away, I can see that that cabane is too tall by about 5mm, and I have the correct angle there drawn on. So this is the top wing here. There's your trailing edge, is about here. There's your leading edge, okay, and I know that's right because I've checked it several times. Lay it over and that will come right, and then you'll see that at least with this model, you see every model is different, it comes out differently, you know, it's like you're stamping thousands of things out, they're not all identical. But this is where I said before, you need precision over accuracy. Yeah, so if you're chomping out thousands of things, you want accuracy. If you're making a one-off like this is, you need precision. Okay, so that will give you the correct angle of incidence, and you need that to be correct to make sure that your elevator at the back is correct angle at that as well. Then your airplane should fly true. Okay, that's really important. Now I'm going to turn you around and we're going to go to the center section. Now I might have to make a separate video, I'm not quite sure, but here is your center section, okay, and your fuzz will go somewhere like that, okay, but over here. Now you've got the correct rib, you've got the correct rib. You then offer that up to the drawing to make sure that you're absolutely spot on and that goes where it's supposed to go. There's your leading edge, there's your trailing edge, but obviously it's not like this, it's a square piece because this is the center section of the top wing, and this is why I've built all the wings separately and then I come back to the center section. I could have done the center section first, yes, I could have done that, but I didn't because I wanted to cut all the ribs out and get it done. So this is where you've really got to put your precision in when you come to do your center sections. Now the center section is for the top wing only, the bottom wing just slots together, but it all rests on this center section here. So once you've cut out two of them and you've got your ply, okay, which there should be two of them and then one in the middle, okay, you can move forward. Now I've still got to cut them out, so I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Okay, so the center section. Now as I said, you need a bit of precision with this, so I'm going to leave half it pinned down and pull some of it out just to show you. Now I spent most of the day trying to get this absolutely bang on, so just so you realise what you've got to do, there is your 0.4 ply. You then got 1.5mm, 1.5mm and your 0.4 ply. Okay, now your ply only needs that piece there cutting out because it's not going to be it's protecting the sides there. Now I know on the plan it only shows to cut this bit, okay, But what this is going to do, if you put it the full length of the rib, it's going to give it such strength. So for instance, if you're doing a landing that hasn't quite gone right, and you know, you do the tip of the wing goes in, this is going to have a hell of a lot of strain on it. It really, really is. So I'm putting at the full length of the rib. So there's your 1.5, and there's your 1.5, and there's your 0.4. Okay, and you sandwich them in like that. Okay, and then you glue them together. But before you glue them together, while it's sandwiched like that, have I got a closed peg? Yes, I have. Grab that. Just make sure everything is absolutely lined up as it should be, and then offer it up to the drawing, and it should, well, there's the first, something's actually gone right. It should just go straight in like that. Okay, then you've got one center rib here. Okay, it doesn't need those strut supports cutting into it, it's just a normal rib, and there's the rest of my R1 ribs ready to do the bottom wing and whatever's left of the top wing. So they're all identical. You've only got to cut out on 1, 2, 3, 4 the cabane struts, go there and there, and now you're ready. You've still got your spare ribs and everything to carry on and do the rest. So there you are. I'm now going to put that together, and I'm going to offer it up onto the fuzz. Right, well, the glue's all set now. I've still got to rub this down, but I've taken all the pins out and everything, and I'm going to take a bit of a risk. What I'm going to do is, because I want to get the filming finished for tonight if I can, just pick this up and see if it goes onto the fuzz. So without further ado, let's make sure I'm all in shot. Yes, I'm in shot. So let's line this up. Well, one half's gone in anyway. Oh wow, look at that. Solid as a rock. Wow. That's how it looks. And because I've checked everything before I started, the angle of incidence should be correct. So, looking at the side, result, yeah, it goes in, comes out, no problem. You said, yeah, happy with that. Right, let's get the wings on. So by this stage, with the wings, and if you've already made the booms, etc., and the tail, your model should be looking something like that. Now, I'm not finished with the wings yet. There's a few things I need to show you, but broadly speaking, that's how the model should be looking. So let's take it apart and study the wings. Right, now then, if you look at the plan, it'll tell you, actually I should have the plan in front of me, that the dihedral at each wingtip, and that is the very last rib, rib 13. That's the odd one out. No, not rib. Yeah, it's R3, but it's the 13th rib. So it's the very last rib. It's 33 millimeters from the bottom of the rib up. So you've got to measure 33 millimeters, that wingtip and that wingtip, which would make it very stable indeed. But I don't want it that stable, so I'm going to do it at 18 millimeters wingtip to wingtip. So instead of doing that, I'm going halfway. So I'm going 18 millimeters this one, 18 millimeters that one, and 18 and 18 are 36, so you've got a total dihedral 36, but 18 on each wing. You have in the middle, let's take that off, the centre section, which you should have already seen by now. Now you have the 2 ply braces that go up to here and end here. Now where this deviates from the drawing, it'll show the 3mm width for the going into the fuzz, but once you put the 2 ply doublers on, that goes up to 8mm. Okay, so you've got to make that there 8mm, not 3. Okay, and you just join them together here and here, and sand everything down, and that's broadly it. That's the top wing done. All you got to do is cover it, really, and obviously, you know, you've already done the ailerons, so you just got to cover that, really. So just put that to one side. Now I still haven't finished with the servos just yet. I'm still looking at how I'm going to place them, but I've got the cables through. I've got to pop a hole in here, don't forget to do that, and the other side, so the cable can go through, and then I'll have to use a wire extender, which I've got one here for this side, I've got one for that side, and then what I will do is I'll put a Y lead in, and then I'll set the servos up, and if I can get them to work okay, that'll be the next thing, and I'll make a video about it. But what I want you to do is see how this goes together, because it's not self-apparent at first, but once you've seen somebody else do it, you go, ah, right, okay. So let's turn this around, maybe move the camera, okay, and I really want you to see what this looks like. So here's the fuzz. Now when I put this together, I left that rib and that rib till last, so I mounted the fuzz on dry, it's not glued or anything, okay, and then I put the 2 ribs in, so that is a nice tight fit, and it comes out, and that's your gap there that I've had to widen to 8mm. That hole there is for the cables for the ailerons, and that is where the wing should go. The wing slightly tilted this way, not by much, I think it's 1.5 degrees or something, but it's tilted this way, which is why I've drawn that on, so that gives me a guide. Okay, so we'll just put that to one side. So you'll see now there's nothing here and there's nothing here. That's correct, and they are the width of the fuzz. Okay, so before you commit yourself, make sure that's the proper width of the fuzz. So all you've got is that centre section. That's it. That's all there is. That middle spar. Yeah. Okay. It looks like I've forgotten to put this rib in here. Oh, how about that? I've only just noticed that. How did they manage to do that? Oh well, that's a 10-second job. Anyway, this rib here, I just noticed is missing. So make sure that you put all the holes in for your cables. Yeah, I've still got to pop this one in here and another one here for this one, and then that will come through to the fuzz, and I'll put a Y lead in there and connect up the receiver. And I've got to do that anyway to centralise the servos and mess around with them, make sure they're moving in opposite directions, etc., and then couple them up to the ailerons. So, but this is the bit I really want you to see, because once you've seen it, it makes sense. It does make sense, but on the drawing doesn't make sense, if you see what I mean. So if you've got somebody to show you one like this, that's what it should look like, just that main spar. And of course there's the ply doublers either side, which go here, here, here and here, because that rib's missing. Okay, and I've cut them down to 9mm wide and the 1.5mm thick, and then I just did a bit of light sanding just to make sure that it fits back into the fuzz okay. And they rest on the bottom of F3. Okay, it's at the back here, so it looks pretty awkward, but that's what it looks like. That's how it's supposed to be. So I think next time I come back to the workshop and start again, I'll be doing the servos and getting those working, and I think what I'll do is I'll probably cover the wings and make sure they're nicely sanded down and everything. So the top and bottom wing will be finished. I've then got to set up the rest of the fuzz. I've got to put the motor in and everything. I have got an extension for that, which should be, if I have it to hand. No, I don't. I don't know where it is. There is an extension, and this goes on top like that. I'm only going to do it loose because I don't want to be not like that. You're fool. Like that. There you go. And with this part, I've got a can of WD-40, which is exactly the right diameter. So you wet this down. I just wrapped it in cling film or bubble wrap or whatever. Put some elastic bands around it and left it for 2 or 3 days because I didn't need to touch it. And it's come out and it's absolutely spot on. So yeah, there you go. So I'm going to be doing the servos next, and then I'll be turning my attention to the fuzz or covering the wings. I don't know which yet. And mounting the motor. Mounting the motor? Mounting the motor. Oh wow, I'm in trouble. Mounting the motor. Okay, I have got an extender. I just can't put my hand straight on it right now, but it's worth looking at. So if you got this far in your build, well done you. Well done you. If you're building from a plan especially, you know, you're doing well to get this far, especially if you're not used to doing it. Okay, so give yourself a pat on the back. What I would say is it's worth getting some cardboard and copying the fuzz onto some cardboard, and that will help you to locate the wing at the correct angle, etc. And one of the, you know, other bits and bobs. So there you are. It's the servos next. Right then, servos for the ailerons. You can see I've put a plate, a balsa plate in, so that when I come to skin it, it's all going to be nice and neat. And I've mounted the servo in each wing. Now, just to show you that they're moving in opposite directions, like this. Okay, so I'll leave that in that position, and that one's up, that one's down. Okay, now I'm using a Y lead here. This is my speed controller. I'm having to use the Spectrum AR620, which is a 6-channel. The reason is that if I do mix the elevators, I'm going to need a spare channel. So if I use a 4-channel, I won't have a spare channel, I don't think. So unless I think of something else. Right, so now I am going to show you that I have used something that I really don't like. I don't like using this, I really don't, and that is a glue gun. I was trying to think of the easiest way of getting these servos in with the least amount of effort, So what I did was I used a glue gun and I glued them in. I don't like doing it that way, but it seems to me to be the easiest way, and they're not under high stress. So that's the way it's going to be. Now you can see I put the cables in. I've not put it through the center section just yet because I've got to put the fuzz in. This is just to set up the servos. That's all it's for. Okay, now I made a mistake, which I often do. All modelers do, but they don't tend to show you, but I don't mind. I put the servo the wrong way around, so they were both going up at the same time. Oh no, but here's the thing, and this is the Barron's top tip. Okay, if you happen to do something like that and you glue them in with this hot glue, there's one way of getting it out, and I'm going to show you what it is. Okay, you need to get yourself rubbing alcohol. Okay, now let's have a look, see if I can get the correct name of this stuff. It's called isopropyl alcohol. So that's the correct name of it, and I always put some in a little bottle that's got a little thing that comes up like that, and so I haven't got to spill the whole bottle out, and it's more controllable, and that will degrade hot glue. So there you go, you heard it here first. That's how you use this rubbing alcohol. Also, it's good for, you know, for those people that do little gliders, people like me, and you got to get the canopy off. It's normally a black canopy. It's been glued in with hot glue. You pour that into the gap, leave it about 3-4 minutes, comes straight off. Great stuff, isopropyl, whatever you pronounce it. So the only thing left to do now is I've got to put some ply here with a control horn and a horn at the rear of the ailerons. So I'm looking for something, and also a horn that goes on the outer edge, which will connect to another horn in the upper ailerons. Now I was going to use ply. Actually, I want to use ply, but I've had to cut off one of the arms to each servo. I thought, why don't I just reuse that? Just save me a whole lot of work. So that's my plan, to reuse them. So that's coming up next. And so servos are in, I've linked them up, and I'll just show you them operating. There you go, they're operating okay, they're all going the right direction. I've not glued anything in. This is just for demonstration because I've got to take them out again to cover the wing. But what I will point out is just one or two of the two things. You see, you have your normal linkage, and I've reused the horns from the servos, and I've put another horn here, and that links from the bottom aileron to the top, and that's how that's going to work. That's how that's going to operate the upper ailerons. So I just thought I'd quickly show you that before I cover the wings. I have to do the ailerons, cover the ailerons. It's unavoidable. Now here's the thing. I'm about to go to the shop to pick up the coverage. This is some old stuff I had, and I'm hoping it's going to match. If it doesn't match, well, it's too late now. So there you are. So it's just a case of covering the wings now. Covering the wing. Now, if you get the impression I'm skimming over this, you'd be absolutely correct. I am going to skim over it. For those people who do watch me, I don't like doing covering. I've never enjoyed it. But anyway, there you go. So this is the bottom wing. and I've elected to do olive drab and cream underneath because I'm a coward. There you go. So that's what your wing will look like when it's covered. Okay, now just get the centre section there. See, there you go, that's where the fuzz goes. So let me just put this to one side for a second or two. So this is what you're starting with. This is the top wing. Now I think I will elect to, well actually you should always cover the underneath first, but I think I will elect to start at the centre section and do the right hand to the left hand underneath, and then turn it over and more or less do the same thing on the top with the green. There's nothing really particularly about it that you've got to watch out for. Yeah, it's a good wing to cover. I'm using Overlander. Let's have a look. Here we are. This is the cream coloured Overlander. It's made in Germany and it's cream, and the product code is 5524612. Made in Germany. Comes in 2 metre lengths. You could get a load of wings covered in this, I think. Probably 6 or 8. I would advise get some leather gloves if you can, in case you need to use the heat gun, because you got to hold it with one hand and it gets very hot. So there you go, that's the covering, and I'm now going to do the top wing, and then I shall skip on to the next item. Yes, you are being cheated. I am sorry about that, but you know, if I don't make things short, then these are going to go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, there's plenty of people on there on YouTube that will show you how to do covering. So there you go, it's Aura cover cream, and this should be Aura cover light. Yeah, that's right, Aura cover light. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do it. There you go.